Oh, yeah, I'm pretty sure I can do it without the microphone. Anyway, good morning. November 22nd, the 60th anniversary of the assassination of that impotent schizo president who, well, I'll tell that story another time. I am actually at 4 a.m. Central Daylight Time. I received notification of a posting or a question posted at 3 a.m. from a Mr. Steve Smith. I'm sorry, I really can't remember some of these YouTube channel handles. I told him I'd tell him more once I had my first coffee. Actually, I slept in this morning. It was a little bit frosty, but this is our first day of full sun and how long? Many days, a week or more. Actually, that's what's causing the hypochondriacs to flood it. Hypochondriacs only show up at the clinic when the weather's perfect. When it's bad weather, they're gone. Anyway, Mr. Smith asked me if I knew Marijuana Man from Vancouver, BC. And I had a moment of like kind of deja vu. I think it's actually pronounced deja vu. Where I'm going like, hasn't somebody asked me that question before? Number one, I have no idea. There's like a million Marijuana Mans. Even one guy here called himself Budsworth. I fucking can't stand hippies. This is my full and complete. I don't care if I go 30 fucking minutes, James Smith. I don't think I've really made this clear in previous videos. I may have mentioned it. Probably did. I don't know. That coffee ain't really kicked in. It takes a full hour for methylxanthine to reach peak plasma levels. And I only had, well, it was fresh ground, fresh brewed coffee. Actually, around here, best coffee available at 7-Eleven because they got a Swiss machine. Anyway, James Smith, it's been damn near 30 years ago. 20 years ago, I stepped on air here. I was already been active for a couple of years as soon as the science began to break. I'm sorry. He pushed my... Ugh. And I had the great pleasure, because all he did was help bump up my ratings. I started broadcasting here. That is the definition of publication. That's the legal definition, is to speak aloud in public. Began publishing my scientific work and the work of others and my opinion on it, and whether it's relevant or not, or whether it's even legitimate. But it's been less than 28 years that I was the first person on this planet to say, publish these words, which is cannabis will cure neoplasia, cancer, by replacing arachidonyl ethanolamide, the first defined endocannabinoid. And I was right. You know what a pair of balls it takes to, at that time I was still, like a middle-aged man. I still had much of my life ahead of me. You know what it's like to step on TV in an area where the most favorite, most watched channels are not mainstream media. It's our local Wayne's World, our cable. Channel 16 usually has more, because that's where the creative people are kind of the scene. It's just, actually, when Alex Jones was struggling to get up out of 150 in the Nielsen's. I was number 3 in the Nielsen's around here. And I had the most requested. The staff used to tell me, man, they just fill up all the voicemails, all the emails are just, and I chose a medium unlike Jones. So you people like on YouTube who you're trying to get monetized and shit, you're trying to make money at it, you're trying to be all kind of, and actually they were fighting me. You know, I lived out of county. They wanted to charge me the out of county producers. And when I started looking at all the options, my best option was to keep using what we called then Open Studio, now called the Commons. Nothing very common about me, but it's a commonly shared property is what they mean. In Open Studio, all I had to do was pay like $40 or something like that to film a 30 to 40 minute lecture and updates and stuff. You can tell that coffee ain't really kicked in yet, but from speaking, my adrenal glands will, and it was the only avenue where I was open to demand from producers and the public for endless reruns at no further cost to me. When Alex Jones wanted to rerun one of his tapes and stuff like that, it cost him money, good money. And he was actually being supported by parents, grandparents, and Mike Hansen, that jerk. But this is specifically to answer James Smith's question in the wee hours. That's one thing I was mentioning in one of my last videos, was that I've noticed that my prime viewing time has gone from, actually my audience is pretty evenly spread from 18 to and up. You know, I've gone from that going out to an early dinner kind of thing, old folks, because it was my first like 23 subscribers were 65 and older. Now it's not. And then my prime viewing time started to stretch from like 5 p.m. till past midnight. And by the way, YouTube admitted last night, something that I've been reporting on is that their real-time data has been malfunctioning. Anybody who checked their analytics last night saw the multiple warnings that they can't present everything right now, and they were only showing me the stuff that they had confirmed, and I didn't even bother. I knew that anyway. James Smith, I have smoked on a turquoise pipe with that little pedophile Dennis Perone of California. He was completely useless, as much as the hippies didn't actually want cannabis legalized. That's how they made their money, was buying and selling pot and pot paraphernalia. And they made money from donations or other stuff like that. That's how they got laid. They made money. They became famous by being pro-marijuana. As a matter of fact, in following the guy who's tried to clone my channel, one of the things that comes up is something posted by Stephen Covey, who recently died. It's about cannabis cultivation, and that's the dumbest piece of shit I ever heard. I mean, really, I couldn't hardly get past the first paragraph without laughing my fucking ass off. Because he's talking about, well, we have the lights police right overhead, and they 12 hours of light, plants grow, That the only part of that was true, is that plants need light to grow, but they don't grow in the light. Actually, they grow in the dark. And actually, cannabis is a cool weather, short day crop. They really only need, at most, because I've grown it under all kind of conditions, and for 20 years stayed with that which worked best, which is they prefer to be firmly rooted and have the feel of soil. I don't think they really like hydroponics. No. They like, super well drained soil. And the light really needs to be at a 45-degree angle so that the whole plant fleshes out with buds, not just like a little bud at the top, a couple, three little below it. That's because that's what they're growing now. These little short, tiny, quick grow buds. That makes me wonder if they're using that gibberellic acid on them to see. I don't put it, hippies will do anything. They'll just lie. They'll sell you shit all the time with pesticide on it. And gibberellic acid is a carcinogen. And it'll make a plant grow real fast, but anybody who's really studied it, they keep going, well, this is a sativa strain. I'm sorry, I haven't seen a real sativa strain like in forever. They're all indica. They might have a little bit of sativa crossbred with them, but no, they're... So people like Mike Kleiman here was kind of the leader of it. He was actually, this is how stupid hippies are. And actually everybody who signed those petitions, he went to would buy lunch for some lobbyist or, some shit like that, he would be the lobbyist. And everybody who signed those petitions ended up getting busted. Texas is not California. We have a different type of government that's running way over time. This year it ran way over time. There may actually be like a 5th special session. But these idiot hippies going around kept going, would you sign the petition to, legalize marijuana? There are no public referenda for the state of Texas. Okay? It's a waste of time. Yeah, now I finally remembered even a fairly well-funded group from Soros money, he put up $15 million, Marijuana Policy Project. Somebody urged me to contact them. I'm just talking about a long line of people that I thought would be of help, and actually all they were was a major time suck, and they did everything they could to eat up my time and keep me from being productive in my scientific work and stuff. And then they would get jealous because if I showed up and I was given a chance to lecture, all of a sudden the crowd would glom onto me. All of a sudden I became the leader because I could explain the scientific basis for the medicinal need and just the everyday need, still medicinal there, for cannabis. And people like Mike Kleiman, who just used and abused women. Dennis Perron was gay, preferred little boys. Stephen Covey, I don't know much about his sexuality, but he sure as shit doesn't know anything about the cultivation of cannabis. Not squat. When you put 12 hours of light on cannabis, you're making it try to shoot up, and if you're limiting that upward growth by fucking with it, you're actually giving it a sunburn. You're growing hemp. That's really what you're doing. In summer, it's rope. In winter, it's dope. Can you remember that? That's my point. Is I don't give a fuck about all these. What about that one guy who's the radical reefer rebel? He claimed he wanted to become the biggest drug dealer in the world. You think he had any real? And even the way California did it, it was still under tight control. They kind of their chosen select, and they're still making huge profits off of it. They really, I don't think you get to. Maybe you get to grow like 6 at home or something that's trying to do the same thing in Maine, and fuck no. It's a short, it takes a long time to grow a really decent plant. It's a long crop, just like cotton. Cotton takes 4 months, warm months. And I didn't finish the cultivation thing before, is cannabis loves cool weather. It grows best when it's between, say, 40 to no more than 70 to fucking degrees. I had to make sure and watch that my greenhouses didn't overheat and start getting up to 80 or 90 degrees. And I developed all kind of cool ways. And they love to be fogged. They love that kind of Big Sur, foggy. They it actually draws out, makes them produce more of the resin that you're looking for. I know a lot of secrets of cannabis. I really haven't ran across anybody who's got half a fucking brain on. But I hope I'm answering your question, Steve Smith. No, I don't know no marijuana man from British Columbia. Does he claim he know me? I know that assholes like Rick Simpson started saying, well, when I discovered that marijuana cures cancer, you didn't discover shit. You're repeating my discovery, my proof, and then eventually Harvard's proof. You're a thief. I actually sent the motherfucker a cease and desist letter. Not that I was going to carry it out. I mean, please. Old Jewish curse, may your life be full of lawyers. And now something that is the product of my genius in hypothetical work, conjecture. Everybody's heard that phrase by now. Hey, gee, I hear that marijuana can cure cancer. Yes, it can. Did it make the evening news when Harvard reproduced? Harvard was the dumbest. They were the slowest to get on. I had to go there in the summer of 2000 and 2001 because 2000 they barely, got started. I gave them the generic term anandamide. You have to actually go there in person and do kind of a polite, collegial embarrassment. Doctor, are you familiar with the word anandamide? And then I'll handle it different ways. Like, well, from what I've heard, it's this discovery of these new cannabinoid-like substances in the body. And many of them are being defined right now. Have you read the literature? Oh, you haven't. Huh? Oh, Harvard knows everything. I see. Took me 2 trips to Harvard to get them on book, but they were the first to reproduce my results and publish 2006, published 2007. Was it on the evening news? Did it make coast to coast news? No. Almost nobody was covering the fact that a Schedule I prohibited substance is the only correct non-toxic cure for cancer. That's my work, James Smith. You see, I knew from the start, I'm going like, if I try to go and get PhDs on even my first discovery, that I'm not going to make it because I can't stand that class the same way Freeman Dyson, Professor Freeman Dyson, who only has a master's. And please bear in mind, I have no degrees. And you don't need any prior graduate degrees to get a PhD. All you need to do is submit your paper and then do an oral defense of that paper to get a PhD. I. Bernard Cohen, that's where he created his own PhD by writing the book, The History of Science. Smart Jew there. His first I. Bernard Cohen wrote a great book. I think or Science and the Founding Fathers, or The History of Science and the Founding Fathers, something like that maybe. But he created his own PhD category. Before that, there was really not a PhD for the history of science. He created one by writing a book and subsequently got it published, and you should all read it. Just look for the name I. Bernard Cohen, Cohen. I think that's about the only book he ever wrote. I'm not sure. But and all of the conjecture, every prediction that I made, and all my reports on new drugs coming out, and all of my reports on cannabinoid. As a matter of fact, I want to mention here that I had mentioned to a brief Christian consulting acquaintance of mine that Dr. Rick Musty was one of my biggest fans. He actually did the first big scale study of cannabis and MS, and it was airtight. He was funded by Karga, as I remember, on that one. And he sent me his paper. I had it somewhere in my files forever. He's passed on now. He retired about the time I did. And actually, he appears to have profited from because I told him they would try to market the cannabinoid antagonist SR 141716A, known by the brand name Ramona Bont. I think it's available for sale in Europe, but no, in this country, as I predicted, the rate of depression in the test subjects and the rate of suicide doubled. They tried to market it as please, my body of scientific work is huge. It would take me days to even give you a summary of all that I've published, all of my findings, and I've cured cancer in myself several times. Prostate cancer isn't like a normal, it is a neoplasia technically, but usually it's always just an androgen imbalance and an apoptosis problem that's normally controlled by arachidinol ethanolamide, and can be that arachidinol ethanolamide only has one non-toxic, functionally superior analog, and that's cannabis, James Smith. When you asked me about whether or not I knew Marijuana Man of Vancouver, BC or something like that, fuck all you fucking hippies that just were a time sucker and did everything you could to not help me, or because I'm the only one. They would ask me for my legal strategy, and I have to say, well, I'm sorry, I really can't tell you that. I can tell you now because the Honorable H.R. Bob Towsley, at the end of my last marijuana trial, in which I was convicted, once again, didn't pay a penny in fines, didn't spend a day in jail, and was once again given a complete waiver of probation without even fucking asking for it. The courts, the judges, I've stated before, I do remember saying that, at least in print, in replying to somebody. The judges, well, a lot of them are retiring now, are becoming, the fill-in judges in their retirement. That's what they do. They respect my tremendous scientific knowledge and my legal knowledge. See, this is what you have to do to really. I was actually ready to go in 2005, but I was in a power wheelchair. Hurricane Katrina hit, moving the Fifth Circuit to Texarkana, and I'd already been damaged by the law. See, that's how it's done. When a law is unjust, and you can prove it scientifically, like I can, once you've been damaged by that law, because my health deteriorated rapidly under kind of the close scrutiny after the last raid or whatever. I think I was still growing pot after the first conviction or whatever. I mean, like, are you going to stop me? I mean, really, you going to stop a glaucomic who's been blind in one or both eyes 15 fucking times? No, it's fuck you. And they had a big one that came in by helicopter. I stole the pictures during the trial. I got them somewhere. I have no idea where my house is now. They say my brother moved it somewhere else to conform with the court's orders that I have access to what's in it. Because what's in it, the house itself and what's in it still belongs to me. The property, by law, really belongs to me under the laws of equity. But Oh God, you hit a real tender spot, James Smith. You know, all them fucking hippies and shit. They're absolutely goddamn useless. And stuff. All the people in the Marijuana Policy Project, when I contacted them, they go, apply for a grant. And I did. I filled out a deal. I made a brief statement to them. I said, you know, you're not the first to do this to me. As you, even some contacted me and asked me to apply for a grant and stuff. When actually I was working off my own personal funds. Most of it, I was the one who was paying for. I want to thank University of Texas for actually paying for a shit ton of my, you know, printouts and other it's just not cheap. And I'm sorry, and sure enough, it's actually the time I got like their next newsletter from Marijuana Policy Project, I could see that they had really essentially spent the $500,000 grant that they had gotten from the Soros bunch. They'd all spent it on their own salaries and on their office in or near Washington, D.C. There was really no money to be had. And I knew they wasn't going to do it anyway. See, as the Epilepsy Foundation was telling me to apply for. Actually, the lady at the Epilepsy Foundation, she did her research. The next time I talked to her, she offered me $15 million to prove that the combination of cannabis and Xanax, brand name, will control almost all seizure orders, including epilepsy, and it will. And then after many years, when I found that they were not making any progress, I called back in, and she was gone. She was clearly upset with the foundation for not looking at the evidence that because I gave her, I said, look, I'm in a wheelchair, and I told her, she actually, that's when I knew it was her money, her private money, $15 million. I would have had to go to Canada and spend about 2 years there and stuff, and find or locate or put up a secure glass house is what it's called. That means I got to have like an armed guard day and night. That costs a ton of money. I had been looking around, found a couple of friends that were getting done with their current contract that would be available. And I just let her know that I don't think I could survive a couple of winters in Canada. I'd have to literally live in a building adjoining the glass house. I wouldn't really hardly be able to go anywhere or do anything for a couple of years. It's really tedious work. We'd go from there to some clinic we would set up or we would dispense, and then have them come back in and bring medical records to make sure that and interview them to make sure that their seizuring had stopped or decreased greatly. And when I called back in many years later to the Epilepsy Foundation, they had no trace of me or her. I think her first name was Elizabeth. That was her private money. I've turned down lots of money from legitimate sources who really, did their research, because I'm going to tell them, look, you understand how easy it is to fake documents now. If I send you, what are clearly printouts and stuff like that, it's not legitimate. Let me give you the citations. You look them up and confirm that they're real. I could have, and all the time I've had, I could easily fake, a body of work. And if you're uneducated, you won't be able to tell. Bruno, Charlotte, Andrew, and Adelaide. Okay, he's with his grandkids. Sorry. Always read my best friend. He reads mine too. It pops up on the screen. It's great having a friend that listens to your every word. He may not respond unless I need a response or something. He just reads them. And I figured he'd be sleeping in this morning. I did too, actually. The business was already open and nobody said shit to me. So, James Smith, I hope I've given you some kind of insight into hippie shits who call themselves marijuana man. No, actually, I usually title my shows the same. I title them humorously, kind of based on The Simpsons. It was called Get Bent with Kent. It rhymed. People like it. People used to go, "Hey, Kent, get bent." So, James Smith, I have no idea the kind of adoration that I receive from the young students and so on, and the respect of many a PhD and MD who their keeping up with research was clearly way behind me. James Smith, I am the Kent Kruger. Fuck William Kent Kruger is fiction. I'm the guy that read the entire National Library of Medicine's database. So you can cut off most of it because the majority of pharmacological research is revolved around the very substances that are destroying arachidonyl ethanolamide, the first defined endocannabinoid. I don't fuck around with hippies and losers in the marijuana movement game, James Smith. They are losers. They're generally stupid. They can't be taught anything. They don't want to learn anything technical. And I will finish with this. Judge Towsley, in my last marijuana trial, at the end he said, "And Mr. Kruger, you have preserved your right to proceed civilly." And that was it. He gave me clear shot to go ahead with I'd already filed notice of claim during the trial. He didn't receive it. It's really beyond the normal parameters of a judge to make a statement like that at the end of a trial. And Mr. Kruger, you have preserved your right to proceed civilly because I pled nolo contendere. See, I'm smarter than you fuckers. And y'all hate it. Especially all you hobo fans. I still have almost all my teeth, all of it, I got bigger and better brains than you. And shit, and y'all a bunch of jealous little bitches. Yapping at the big dog. Bunch of little chihuahuas. I've been around, I've traveled, I've seen and done shit that y'all will never have a chance of doing because you have to earn that privilege, or you have to be like super rich to get to do it. I doubt Elon Musk has ever rode the Vomit Comet. I did at 17. So, does that answer your question, James Smith? I've gone almost 34 minutes here. Most people won't watch for more than 3 minutes, 2 minutes before they get bored and need another beer. You know what I'm saying?